Hey guys, welcome to another episode of She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and letting me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. This is your show just as much as mine. And let me know where you're watching in from. And yeah, make sure you're also voting on the poll because as the title and the thumbnail says, we're going to be talking about midfield today. There was a article that had come out on the Athletic that came from James McNicholas, I believe, Gunner blog. So we're going to go over some of the information on that, and a lot of the talk in that article was around Arsenal in the midfield. And so I feel like we could kind of go line by line and talk about it. I also have a little spreadsheet. We can build our dream midfield together for next season and kind of talk about how Declan Rice's position is actually the key to whatever Arsenal are going to do. Beckham. Stop. You have stuff. Eat it. Eat this. Is actually the key to the midfield. So, and who we're going to buy. And there's also been some chat around who's kind of actually available. You know, we talked about this yesterday, that a lot of it has to do with who's actually available in the market. And there's some information on that too. So make sure you guys smash the likes. And we're going to go through headlines in just a second, but I want to see who is all in here. Tom Whitfield says, in possession, Rice can't play 6, but out of possession, he'll be in a double pivot, predominantly as a 6. We need a press-resistant, mobile, decent passer next to him, possibly Odegaard. Nostradamus says, plays as an 8 when Partey plays in the 6th, and Rice plays the 6th when we experiment with a number 8. Samuel says, hello. Boy says, Havertz is going to play midfield, laughing out loud. There's been a lot of, off of the back of this particular article, that it's basically like, okay, we're going to get a striker and then we're just going to put Havertz in midfield. I do believe that if that ends up being the case, a lot of Gooners are going to be upset. And I can kind of understand why, because once we moved away from that particular midfield structure, we did play better. Like, in my opinion, I think most of us can say that we felt like we played better. And so going back to something that potentially doesn't work that well feels like we're just trying to make things work, or like paper over the cracks of maybe past mistakes. And this is why, you know, at the end of the season, when, you know, we had spoken about, you know, how we felt about Havertz and stuff like that, people were like, well, how can you say it wasn't a good signing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, to me, it kind of all depends on how we fix it this coming summer. If it becomes the case that, you know, we want to shoehorn Havertz into midfield and we bypass left center mid again because he's here, I will still view this signing as maybe not the best signing, not because Havertz is not a good player, but he's preventing us from bringing in a piece that is so obvious that we need. And reading the article from James McNicholas made me feel like, okay, do they not feel like we need to bring in another midfielder, or are they kind of just flying by the seat of their pants? Are they kind of okay with what we have, and they're struggling to figure out what they want to do? I don't know. I just honestly, I don't know. I just feel like the Havertz signing has made things so much less unclear, because you have to put the 65 million pound, 275,000 pounds per week player in the lineup somewhere. They cannot drop him or put him on the bench. It would go against all of the, you know, all of the narrative around this was a signing that we had to make. Doing that would undermine all of that. So knowing that they have to find a spot for Havertz makes me a little uneasy about the idea of bringing in a striker and then somehow them making it feel like, well, it's just okay for Havertz to just drop into midfield, because I don't think that's good enough. So yeah, like, that's my biggest fear. Listen, let's get into your headlines before we actually get into the meat of the conversation. There has been a lot going on in the world of football, not just in Arsenal land. So give me just one second. Okay. Chelsea are stepping up talks for Michael Olise as well as Benjamin Sesko. I had mentioned this yesterday that I started to see the Chelsea links pop up a little bit more frequently yesterday, and now they're fully there today. That even though Arsenal are said to be in pole position, they feel like they're making good headway in talks with Benjamin Sesko and Michael Olise. We all know that like Chelsea PR during the transfer window is like the best PR you could possibly have. They're always in the front of the race. They're always hijacking. They're always, buying a lot of players and doing it quickly and being aggressive. And so it does make me a little bit like, okay, the bomb is going to come at some point. Neither one of Fabrizio Romano or Ornstein has really come out and said like Arsenal are like negotiating. There was a little like something from Ornstein today about Arsenal being in pole position and him being our kind of like our number one target. But beyond that, there's nothing to say that we're like leagues ahead or wrapping up the deal or anything like that. So there's every possibility that we can wake up from now until, the Euros, and there'll be a bomb about Chelsea finishing the deal for Benjamin Sesko. We know how it goes. They're very aggressive. And if it comes down to it and he has to choose between Arsenal and Chelsea, I do believe that if they were to offer more money or pay over the release clause, which are things that they have done in the past to get deals done, he will end up there and we just have to deal with it. Michael Olise was also earmarked to go to Manchester United, and it looks like the tides are turning on that as well. So we know how they operate in the market. They operate in this like very aggressive, overpay, overspend, whatever you have to do to get the talent thing. And so I'm not really like that surprised. The FA want to issue a lifetime ban for Lucas Paquetá. It's not looking good, bruh. It's not looking good for Lucas Paquetá. This also could be maybe a little bit of like thank God we didn't get him. He was somebody that we really wanted, or like the fans really wanted. I've always really rated Lucas Paquetá. I've always felt like our midfield should be Odegaard, Paquetá, and Bruno Guimaraes, but that's neither here nor there. He is in a lot of trouble, so a lifetime ban would be so crazy, but that's also the ripple effect that would probably make Manchester City really focus in on Bruno Guimaraes, and they will pay the £100 million for him. They will. I think he is available, but Arsenal are not going to want to go into back-to-back windows spending £100 million. So, he could end up there. Juventus and Aston Villa are discussing a swap deal for Douglas Luiz and Weston McKennie. At the very least, they're interested in Douglas Luiz. What a weird deal. What a strange link. That's crazy, but listen, the transfer window brings about weird rumors, and maybe it's just the case that he's negotiating a contract, and so all these extra things are coming out. But I don't really care about Douglas Luiz that much. So if he ends up at Juventus, then he ends up at Juventus, right? And Newcastle are set to make a formal offer for James Trafford. So there's not a lot of reports linking Aaron Ramsdale to Newcastle anymore. It kind of seemed like they lowballed us. We said we wanted more than 15 million, and they said, okay, we'll just go after someone else. And that's going to be the difficulty that Arsenal have in the window, is that we just don't have any clout in the window at all whatsoever. So if we were any other club, honestly, and I think we said we wanted 30 million for Ramsdale, they would have given it to us. But it's something about us, like they just don't feel like we could ever ask for those fees and just get them from Premier League clubs right off rip. And so they'll just go for somebody. And like James Trafford is just as good of an option, I think, as Aaron Ramsdale for what they want to do. They want to bring in a younger goalkeeper that can kind of like be the number 2 behind Nick Pope, and then Nick Pope will go and then they'll be number 1. James Trafford also fits that pretty well. He has Premier League experience. He's young. He's English. And so, Aaron Ramsdale, they only wanted to pay a certain amount. And I think, that put them off. Where that leaves us with Aaron Ramsdale, I don't know. And he must go this window, and we have to get a good fee. So, that's over to you, Edu. That's on you, figure it out. So that's it basically for headlines. Also, you guys, the link for the classic watch along that's going to be on Thursday at 8 p.m. UK time, it's in the description box. It's pinned to the chat. We're going to be watching the 2013-2014 North London Derby third round. That's what you guys voted on. And so I'll just show you guys one more time what TIFO looks like. This is not the last time I'm going to show you, honestly. Let's be real. But I just want to show you guys, just in case you haven't seen it before. We do our watch-alongs on TIFO. TIFO is a really good platform for creators that just want to do watch-alongs. And so whenever we do watch-alongs, whether that's going to be for the Euros or Copa America or these classic watch-alongs, or once we get into the season, they will be on TIFO. So I'm just going to share my screen with you guys really quick so you can see what it looks like. When you come to my page, which is just, the first part of the website, alpha.jointifo.com/Shino's Arsenal, you'll see the classic watch along here. And it says June 6th at 12 p.m., which is 12 p.m. for me, 8 p.m. for you guys in the UK. You see Santi Corzola on the thumbnail, because who doesn't love Santi? My past watch alongs have been here. So if you guys haven't been paying attention, we did watch-alongs during the season as well. So there's a classic watch-along, and once you click on this, or once you RSVP, this is what you'll see. It'll say join watch-along or RSVP for watch-along in 2 days, 2 hours, 48 minutes, or 46 minutes and 3 seconds. And yeah, so that's pretty much the deal. Oh, you guys couldn't even see it. Here it is. I do that every single time. Let me go back just one more time. I know you guys are like, get to the transfers, but I need to make sure that you guys know about this so that on the day, you're not like, okay, where do I go? So this is what it looks like when you come to the landing page. The landing page is, this website. I'll just put it in the chat now for you guys. So you guys could just go ahead and do this quickly. Yeah. So I just put the link in the chat. When you guys go to this link, you guys will see Classic Watch Along upcoming. It's right here. And when you click on it, boom, bow, boom, And so when you're RSVPing, it'll ask you for your email, but it'll also ask you for a code. And the code is Jessica. So it's JESSICA. It's my name. That's the code. And yeah, so that's all the info. Okay. Now enough for the, what do we call this? House cleaning or whatever. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? I don't know what it's called. Oh, and Emil Smith-Rowe has been informed that Arsenal will not stand in his way, but want more than 30 million pounds for him. So we had kind of talked about that yesterday. All right. So Zach 10 says hi. John Donut says hi. C. Walter says Partey is desperate to stay, apparently. Well, you're not getting a new deal. Like, I don't know. I think some people like the comfort of having somebody of his talent level on the team, but genuinely, the older he gets, the more unreliable he's going to become. And having 250,000 pounds per week sitting on the bench is just not the best way to use. You really should be moving those wages onto a top quality elite midfielder. And that's what Arsenal should be doing. So even if he's desperate to stay, which why wouldn't he be? He's in London getting 250,000 pounds per week. He has a new baby. So why wouldn't he want to stay? Is it for footballing reasons? Who knows? Who cares? Like, you can't let him run his deal down. It's just a waste of money. Tabuki says, if Rice plays 8, might as well sim season so we can collect our runners-up medal. Nico says, big up, Jess. Those headphones look huge. They are huge, but I love them. They just make me look so legit, Burmy says, it may be more attractive for Sesko to go to Chelsea, potentially more money and a consistent starter. Arteta won't drop Havertz. Fair enough. Mosquito says, hello, Jess. Greetings from Naples. Go Gunners. Ooh, Naples. Okay. Listen, I love a little bit of Naples. I love Italy. So, yeah. Blaze says, Paquetá could retire from football at his age. Wow, this is crazy. It is. Don't bet. Don't bet. I don't like betting. So I don't like betting. I don't like gambling. I don't like losing money because that could be spent on clothes, on football kits, on food. Like, I'm not trying to waste my money. So there's just no way I would ever bet or gamble or anything. It's just not me. It's just not me. Boy says Havertz will play both CM and CF and CM this coming season. Hopefully more CM, because that would mean we got a good striker. FA says, what do you think about City suing the league? It's really a bigger conversation for another day. That was also a part of my headlines. I just don't think I read it out. But Manchester City have launched an unprecedented legal action against the Premier League. We all know they're guilty. This is their Hail Mary. I think if they could get I just feel like they're just trying to get the Premier League in court with them and basically like get them like money for money. Like, how much are you going to spend to keep us from, doing what we want to do and pretending like it's about being owned by a Gulf state and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's literally because you guys are cheating. Like, it's not because of, who owns, the club, whatever. It's how you guys have gotten to where you've gotten to, and you clearly are guilty. Like, I don't know. Like, I think they're going to get away with it. I always have felt like they're going to get away with it. And so nothing will change my mind. So yeah. Foxy says Chelsea are very good at taking everyone else's targets. You just had it happen the other day with Tosin Adarabioyo. That's just how they are. I don't actually think they like going after players that are not already linked to somebody else. I think they have carefully planned out this big bad wolf persona in the market. It doesn't translate to the pitch, but it's like, let's hijack, make sure we're trending. Bowley spends times in Twitter spaces and stuff like that. Let's hijack. That's how you get like the fans on side, especially Chelsea fans, because they're very like insecure. It's always about like, we have to take something from you. We can't just have something, so I think it's all carefully plotted out, to be honest. So yeah, Fabrizio says, hey, Jess, deleted Twitter. Any updates on the striker pursuit? So we're mostly going to talk about midfield today, and there's already 300 of you guys in here, so make sure you guys smash the likes. But in terms of striker, there's no updates, but Arsenal and Chelsea are both interested in Sesko. That's pretty much it. So let me go ahead and pull up the things that I bookmark on Twitter from the Gunner Blog article on The Athletic, because that's the most important thing. Let me just make sure I get to the beginning. Okay, so let's start off with let's start off with this, because I think this is a good like segue into just the conversation in itself. So this came from that article saying that after Arsenal's elimination against Bayern Munich in the Champions League quarterfinals, the feeling among hierarchy was that the team lacked a certain X factor in attack, something special to unlock defenses on special occasions. So let's go ahead and get this part out of the way, because we've spoken about this a lot. Our Arsenal missing star, sparkle, a little bit of stardust. I think, this goes into we don't lack goals. We lack goals in moments where things are difficult. We kind of have to be perfect to score goals. Like, everything has to come together for the perfect goal. There is no just kick it into the box and just nick it in. We don't have that Holland effect where even if we have to go up against a deep block or a mid block or whatever, we always have the option to just get it to him and he'll probably put it in the back of the net. And we don't have fear factor. Like, I do think that obviously when they do tape and they look at Arsenal, they think, oh, this is a good team. But I don't think but beyond Saka, I don't think, and Saka and Odegaard, I don't think they're like, we have to stop these players. Like, because they know once they stop Odegaard and Saka, we're pretty much dead in the water anyway. But I think like there's no inevitability or a player that, even if you try to stop them, even if you mark them, they're going to get something. We don't have that player in our team. So the closest we have is probably Saka, but even he needs a little bit of assistance. And I don't think this season he was helped by Jesus' injuries. He wasn't helped by Martinelli's lack of form. It was all like Saka or die, So I do think that we miss a little bit of that. Will Arsenal get that X factor? I don't know. Is that X factor Sesko? I think it can be, with a little bit of work, a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of TLC, and a little bit of patience, but I do think that like this is where not just being okay with what you have is so important. I think Arsenal are kind of very patient with the players that we have, and some of that's been a really good thing. But there's also like this element of like, well, let's just go another year with what we got. And I feel like every year we do that, we kind of move forward in certain places, but also stagnate in others. And I think we've needed this for a while. We've needed the striker for a while. We've needed the midfielder for a while. And it's just time to kind of go ahead and get it and like stop waiting, figure it out and get it done. Now, the market also dictates what you can do. But as we spoke about yesterday, just because that star striker is not available doesn't mean you can't bring in somebody with like superstar quality that's younger. So maybe that's Sesko, maybe that's, somebody off of the wing, but Arsenal definitely need to get that done. So Arsenal are interested in Isak and have admiration for Bruno Guimaraes, but it's not expected to go any further than that. The Brazilian has a 100 million release clause that is active until the end of June, and Newcastle are likely to demand a sum that is in the region even after that point. So that pretty much rules out Bruno Guimaraes, I would imagine. I think they're pretty much like putting it out there in the ether that like we're not getting him. Sorry, it's just the lights are like making me like so hot. But yeah, I feel like they're basically saying like we're not getting Isak, which we talked about. You're also not getting Bruno Guimaraes. I think if Bruno does move, he moves to Man City because unlike us, they did not spend 100 million on a midfielder last summer. So they will probably invest in their midfield, and with Paquetá being off the table, that's probably the player that they'll go for. So there's that. So they're pretty much telling us we're not going to get Bruno Guimaraes. Zubimendi and Neves are seen primarily as holding midfielders that will play at the base. So basically, like more like the Partey replacement types. They're going to sit at the base and allow Declan to go a little bit further forward. A new number 8 remains on Arsenal's radar, but the club feel that there are relatively few suitable options on the market. So, no Bruno Guimaraes, no Zubimendi, no João Neves. João Neves is not even leaving Benfica this summer. Zubimendi doesn't want to leave Spain. We can't get a hold of Bruno Guimaraes because of the fee. So, Arsenal want a number 8, but we also know how they act. If they don't feel like there's an option out there, they will fully just go without. I think that would be a massive mistake. I think they need to dig a little bit deeper and find somebody that can play this role, find the money to get it done, do something. Not addressing midfield but this is again, getting Havertz gives them the ability to not get a number 8. And that was always my biggest concern about going into the summer window, is that as much as I think he's played well, he's still going to be a barrier between us getting what we need, because we're either not going to get the striker because we're just going to go with Havertz, or we're not going to get the midfielder because we're just going to go with Havertz, because he's not going to the bench. So it's a little bit of like if we didn't have Havertz, they'd be desperate. They'd be desperate to get a midfielder, but they're not. They've already re-signed Jorginho. I would be very, very concerned about next season if we don't get a midfielder. So let me see what you guys are saying before we get to the next row of info here. Let's see. Jude K says, yes, we are missing Stardust, aka De Bruyne, or just like any player that has that inevitability. I think like I've already said this multiple times that I feel like De Bruyne is not the right comp for that. There's no other De Bruyne out there. Like, he's one of one. And so there's players beneath De Bruyne's level that also have that stardust. Like you guys were talking about like Works or whatever. I'll put money down right now. Actually, I don't gamble, but like I just said, but I would say right now with chess that I don't think Wirtz will ever be at Kevin De Bruyne's level. Never. Like, he'll never get there. But does he have the stardust and the inevitability and that little something special? Yeah. Just like Javi Simmons has that little something special. Yeah, they do. So it's not necessarily just a De Bruyne thing. It's just like a player that can make things happen out of nowhere, can make something out of nothing. Right now, our players are, and I think this is also systematic as well. They're very like in their like little routine. And so we even saw it against Bayern Munich and Porto to a certain extent, that there were times where you could tell we were trying to do our patterns and we would still pass it in places where the lane was blocked. But because that's what we would normally do, we still did it. And that just tells me that there's a lack of thought outside of the routine. The routine beats 95% of teams, but that 5% where they've kind of figured us out, or it's a different type of game or a different type of competition, we don't have the ability to think outside of the patterns and make things happen on our own. We had that one moment with Odegaard and Trossard against Porto. But beyond that, in the Champions League, I do think that one of our biggest issues was we couldn't act outside of our routines. And we were very much like, robotic and we couldn't come out of it. And when things went against us, we couldn't just come out of it. And some players just have that ability to make something happen out of nothing, like Alexis. Like Alexis was not Kevin De Bruyne's level, was nowhere near it, but he was a freak of nature and just made shit happen on his own. Arsenal need that type of player, whether that player is in midfield or plays up top. It does not matter. They need that player. So yeah, Jude K says Martinelli was supposed to inject stardust. Boy says we are lacking the player that executes. Boy's also saying Trossard is a fan fave currently because people think that he will be that executioner. I don't think it's so much that with Trossard. I just think he saved us from being pitiful this season. Without his goals, we would have been fucked. I think he deserves to be a fan favorite because he scores goals. Like any player that scores goals is going to be very well liked by this fan base. So I don't think it's because people feel like he's the answer to our problems. I think most of us know that Trossard is a squad player. He's somebody that can be in the starting 11 and we don't drop off. But if we have our main group and Martinelli's performing, he's not a part of that starting 11. So yeah, I don't think he's become a fan favorite because people feel like he's the answer. I feel like he scores goals, and quite frankly, he's probably our, with non-penalty goals, he was our best attacker. So yeah, I think he deserves his flowers, to be honest. I think he deserves his flowers. Andre says, so why not Rashford? Because they'll never sell him to us. Like, there's just no way that they would open up themselves for the inevitable that we get Rashford and he's completely different for Arteta and he becomes the player that they've been waiting around for him to be. They would never allow that to happen. It's just like Sir Alex Ferguson stepped in so that Ronaldo wouldn't go to Man City. It would be the exact same thing. There's just no way that they'll let players like that go to rivals and potentially eclipse what they've done at their current club. Like, they would never let it happen. There's just no way. No way. So yeah, that was like the first thing that I read, and it definitely, I was like, okay, I'm concerned about what I'm reading. Yes, Stardust, but there's no talk of getting that Stardust. There's no talk of getting that X Factor. If Sesko is the X Factor, then fine, but there's no talk of getting that. The hierarchy knows we need it. And the funny thing about it is that now that we know that the hierarchy knows that that's what we need, to not go out and get it would be stupid. So we spoke about Zubimendi and Neves not being options anymore. Players like Frankie de Jong and Lucas Paquetá are unlikely to move this summer, albeit for very different reasons. Frankie de Jong because Hansi Flick is going to want him to stay, and Lucas Paquetá because he's probably going to be banned for a significant amount of time, if not forever. And the acquisition of a number 9 could allow Havertz to play more games in midfield. That's the line. I'll let you guys see it yourself. I'll let you guys see it yourself. So you guys can read it. So yeah. Yeah. So like it's right there. The acquisition of a number 9 could allow Havertz to play more games in midfield. So that feels a little bit like 1 + 2 equals like 1 + 2 = 3 kind of thing. Like it's an obvious deduction from where we're going. Getting the number 9 means we don't get the midfielder. If that's what we're doing, what kind of summer are we going into where we potentially buy Sesko for 55 million and we end up with a defender and a midfielder, or a defender and a striker, and what else? Like, this window is very much so giving like we're not really desperate to do that much. If that's the case, like we're not really like getting it. This team is close, but it's still very far away. Like it is. Like, am I tripping? We need 2 attackers, a midfielder, and a defender. And one of those players needs to be an elite midfielder that's already like probably Premier League proven. And then the attackers need to have like world-class potential at the very least. Am I the only one who thinks that? Arsenal feeling like getting a number 9 means that Havertz will play more games in midfield, or like there's a trade-off there, just makes me feel like this club is just like a little unserious, but that's just me. We don't have enough. We don't have enough. Like we're not going to win the league with what we have. plus Sesko. What we have plus Sesko is not winning us the league. You need at least another winger and a midfielder. Like there's just no way. So uh what the fuck? And then the last line is while 17-year-old Ethan Nweri is also expected to feature more often next season. So yeah, I like that. I've been saying Ethan Nweri should get these minutes, and the minutes that he should be taking are from ESR and Reece Nelson. But that still doesn't answer the question. What are we gonna do? Start Ethan? Child. I am just like, it's giving. We're not gonna sign a midfielder. And what happens if Chelsea signs Sesko? Then what the fuck are we gonna do? Then what are we gonna do? We're just not gonna do nothing? Like, child. What's going on? This child sleeps all the time. I've had him for 2 days, and all he does is sleep. um, so yeah, John P says, I am not worried. Do not take these articles too serious. The only reason why I'm taking it a little bit more serious is because it's the Athletic and it's James McNicholas, who can be hit or miss. I remember he was like very, very like sure that Saliba would not come back. Not because of any information, but just in his gut, he didn't feel like Saliba was going to come back. So some of this is him like assuming things, but I think his assumptions align with my assumptions as well. Not necessarily like going as far as we won't get a midfielder at all, but that there is no matter whatever position we don't get is, or whatever position we fill, the other position becomes where Havertz will be. And that's where the concern for me comes in, because that cannot be midfield. That could be striker. It cannot be midfield. It just can't. Like, there's just, he did okay, and I feel like Kai Havertz is like a midfielder you can play in a pinch. It's like he's versatile, but it doesn't maximize anything that we're trying to do. It means Declan Rice is definitely like pigeonholed in the six, meaning there is none of that interchange that we had with Georgie, where like he would go further up, Jorginho would go further back. I actually think that was our best period of the season, was when they were like doing that the swapping positions thing. There's none of that. That means Rice will stay in the six and Havertz will play in the eight. That also means that he'll be making the third man runs from midfield. And that will also leave the left wing probably not being as integrated as we want. So there's repercussions for bringing in a striker and then saying, well, then Havertz will just play midfield. And then also, if you're like, okay, we'll drop Havertz to the bench and we'll just start either one of Partey or Jorginho. I also think going into next season with two grandfathers, being asked to play for all four competitions is asking for trouble. Jorginho, he is not going to play 3 games a week, and Partey is brittle as a biscuit. So it's kind of like, so that's just all I'm saying, is that to me, these are concerns. But things can change, but it feels like there's a little bit of like, okay, well, we're probably not going to get that midfielder because all the options that we want are not available. There's also like this, if Arsenal opt to pursue a wide forward, there's long-term interest in Pedro Neto of Wolves and Nico Williams of Bilbao. In the case of Neto, his injury record is a cause for considerable caution. This ain't saying nothing. This is like old shit. In midfield, Arsenal remain interested in Zubamendi, but Zubamendi ain't going nowhere. So, those old links out wide too suck. It's like, okay, if Pedro Neto is a concern because of his injury record, and Nico Williams is somebody that we probably won't sign because of how much he's going to cost, wages wise, then where are the new links to the new attackers? Like, surely you can find somebody else to be interested in other than Pedro Neto. Like, it can't just be Pedro Neto or nothing. It cannot just be, Zubimendi or nothing, like surely you have other targets that there are plenty of talented young winger options that we could go after, Bakayoko being one of them. You know, like this should be updated by now. Like what's going on? Where are the new links? So yeah, it's a little bit like, okay, what are we doing? Um, so let me see. I had some more bookmarked, but let's see what you guys are saying. Boy says Havertz at CM with a proper striker changes the dynamics of tactics. Catch up, please. I would have to believe it to see it. I don't necessarily. Then we're playing the diamond, or whatever. Arteta always wanted to play the diamond. So what's that going to do? I think the only way that it works is if Havertz is in the diamond. Change it, like I don't need to really catch up. Like it's still, to me, reeks. We tried it at the beginning of the season where we played with the striker up front and Havertz was in this free role, and it was Rice and Odegaard in the midfield, and then we had Partey pinching in as a fullback coming into midfield. None of it worked. None of it really worked. It was very it was hard. It just felt like we were forcing something that didn't work. Even if the dynamic changes up front, we still have to get the ball up to those players. And personally, I don't like the idea of one of our, DMs playing in the fullback role. I just think it reeks, so I don't know how else you do it unless you leave Declan Rice at the base of midfield and you allow Timber to play that left center mid role, but we're still inverting. Y'all hate the inversion. So I get that things would change up front, but the only way for it to work is if Havertz has a free role to play off of the striker. He cannot be asked to receive the ball in crowd scenes from any of his defenders. He literally has to be almost like a second striker. And the only way to make sure that we have enough midfield presence is to have 3 people in midfield, which means you have to invert someone, either your DM or your fullback. So we can't just have 2 midfielders. It doesn't work. It never has worked. And Odegaard going deep, again, like as much as it worked and it papered over the cracks when Havertz was playing in midfield, we lost something creatively. Our best period in the season came when we had 3 real midfielders. I remember when we played, Odegaard was playing a little bit deeper. It papered over the cracks because Odegaard is just a phenomenal footballer and can get it done. But is Odegaard's best spot in the team is in zone 14. That's where he's most dangerous. Having him play deep is just a band-aid for a problem that could be solved very easily if we just buy a midfielder. We don't have to do all this Odegaard dropping deep, Declan playing a half role, Havertz being this, it just feels like we're trying to figure out a way to get Havertz into the side, play the second striker thing where everybody else's role is a little bit more difficult. And I don't know if sacrificing Declan Rice and Odegaard for the sake of Havertz playing this second striker role, what are we getting from it? What are we actually getting from it? I don't know. So maybe we'll see it. I never felt like it was the end of us seeing him at midfield at all, but genuinely, if we don't bring in a midfielder, he's starting midfield because we'll bring in an attacker and that'll be it, so I don't like it. John Doe says, nah, I disagree with Odegaard being in zone 14. Odegaard is closer to Modric, Bernardo, and KDB. If you actually look at the statistics and you look at where Odegaard is most dangerous, it is zone 14. And most of his creation for Arsenal comes in zone 14. So the only reason why he doesn't have more assists is not because he's not a creative player. All of that has been dispelled. His creative numbers, through balls, created chances are top. They're better than everybody else in Europe, top 5 leagues. He is one of the most creative players in the world. And the only reason why he doesn't have more assists is because our players are bozos up front. There were so many against Wolves, against Brighton. There are so many opportunities where players just fluff their lines. So, he is very creative in zone 14. The statistics say so. The statistics of top 5 leagues of creative players, it just all speaks to Odegaard being super creative, taking our most creative player away from his zone to make sure that we have somebody that can actually progress the ball from deep so that Havertz can play a second striker role. Is that equal? Is the sacrifice equaling something? I guess the only way we'd know is if we saw Sesko and Havertz playing off of each other. But for me, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it at all. So, yeah. Aha said Odegaard needs to be roaming all over regardless. Don't want him sticking in one position and be some sort of second striker. We want him to be occupying right center mid, left center mid, and being deeper in midfield. I agree with him having more freedom. I don't agree with, because once you put Havertz in midfield, he is not roaming anymore, because he needs to assist Declan Rice so that we can make sure that we have somebody that can help progress the ball from those deeper positions. So if you're saying that that's what you want, then you don't want Havertz playing in midfield, because that's exactly what happens. Like, I watch the games. Like, Like, we really struggled to progress the ball when Havertz was playing off of the left midfield. Like, so I don't know how you guys expect us to progress the ball without Odegaard dropping, and that would take away some of his ability to like roam. So yeah. Jonathan K says, plus our buildup really suffers if Havertz is a left. Like, I mean, I feel like people just forgot the whole season, like, and blacked out and think that if we go back to that, it's just going to be fine because Odegaard could just drop deep. Like, okay, like, fair enough. If you guys want to sacrifice your best creative player being closer to the box for the sake of a second striker playing off of a striker that we've never seen play for us, fair enough. Do you? Saida says, one thing I dislike about Arteta is that when he likes or tries to justify a signing, he weakens the other positions to try to force them in. It's something he still has a learned to avoid. And yeah, I'm a little bit like, okay, so what are we doing? Like, that's all I'm saying is when I'm reading these reports, I'm just thinking, what are we doing? Like, is Havertz going to play midfield or striker? And are we going to put Declan in a position where that's just going to be his position? And that leads me to this little blurb too, where James was saying it may be that Arsenal keep their options open, intending to recruit a player with the versatility to play 6 or 8. At present, it seems as if Arsenal may be leaning towards keeping Rice in the 8 role. The club feel the market for 8s is difficult this summer. So keeping Rice in the 8 position because we can't find a number 8 that suits what we're trying to do. So then maybe we buy a number 6 or we just don't buy one at all. So it's tough. It's really tough. Like, keeping Rice in the 8 role, it's okay, but we have to have the option to play him in the 6. I just feel like giving away that option just feels like very, I don't know. It just feels very silly to me, but that's just me. But saying that they're leaning towards keeping Rice in the 8 role because the market for the number 8 is difficult is more of like where the elements are making our decisions for us. We're not making the decisions, which goes back to, did we recruit well last summer? If we had just gotten a left center mid when the market for number 8s was really good, we wouldn't be in this position. I've been saying it. The market this summer for number 8s is terrible. But last summer, there was a bunch of 8s that you could have gotten, and we chose not to do it. Now this summer, there's not as many 8s. So now we're in a position where we're going to be forced to put Declan in the 8 role and maybe keep what we've been doing, which will leave us with Partey and Jorginho as our options deep, which I think both of them have their problems, So it's very it's giving, we made decisions and now decisions are being made for us because the elements are going against us now. In midfield, Arsenal's recruitment priorities will be determined by a decision on Declan Rice's role in the team. If he's to be used primarily as a number 6, then they will need a number 8 to complement him, and vice versa. As of yet, there's not been a clear decision. And so I honestly think that this is just based on, like, we've seen in the season that he's played multiple positions, so there's no decision made. But I actually think the decision was made the moment that we bought Havertz. Like, you still need to get the Xhaka replacement more than anything. Like, it still has not been fixed. It still not has been done. So I still feel like whatever player we're bringing in needs to be more of a number 8 than a number 6, somebody that can pop up in and around the box and add goals and do those types of things, but can also play a little bit deeper, like basically like a Bruno Guimaraes. But you guys didn't buy him when you had the chance to get him. And so now here we are, So He's 100 million. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good in terms of recruiting a midfielder. And it also makes me feel like we're veering straight into Onana. And it's like, yeah, that's not it. Mafia Boss says, get Fofana in your sorted Jess. I would take Fofana over Onana, but we know that the club will go for the Premier League proven expensive option. So if we do get somebody, it probably will be him. John Doe says, if we can't get a proper 8 like Bruno, go get Onana from Everton and give Rice the 8. Plus, we don't lose much athleticism when we bench Rice. Well, when we bench Rice, as if that's going to be like a realistic thing that happens. I get what you're saying, but when we give him a rest every once in a while. But the problem I have with Onana is that if you guys don't like the way Rice passes from the base of midfield, well, buckle your seatbelts for Onana because that guy is not a passer. He is a destroyer. He can carry the ball on transition, and that's about it. The guy's insanely limited, and just because he's big and tall doesn't mean he's any fucking good. Like, I don't want this guy. Like, I don't want him. Like, I'll be gutted if that's what we get. Chris says I'd be so disappointed if we got Onana. Gunnar says Onana is crap. Nicholas says, Boy says Nicholas Iwald is the one if we must buy someone. John Doe says rest Rice. Exactly. Foxy says, I noticed Man United linked to Fofana now. Yeah, I mean, somebody's going to get Fofana. Somebody's going to get Onana. Man City are probably going to get Bruno Guimaraes. Nobody will probably get Douglas Luiz. Like, the options are not that good, like, when you really start, like, knocking them down. But that's all based on, like, when we had a summer where all the 8s were available. We didn't get one. We chose to get Havertz. And so it's just we are where we are based on the decisions that we made. And so I could just see us, well, the market wasn't great, so we just didn't get a midfielder. But what are we going to get then? Because you still have to improve the team. The team is still not good enough to win the league. Like, I don't care what you say. Going into next season with Havertz, like, let's put Havertz, like, Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, Sesko, and like Jesus, and like, that's not good enough for your attackers. Like, that's nowhere near good enough. You still need to bring in a winger. Like, it's just not good enough. Like, maybe I just don't rate some of these players as high as other people, but we have to get the players that are going to change how people view us from an attacking standpoint. A backup striker in Sesko that's kind of building his way through can help us and will help us because he's an upgrade on Nketiah. But I don't know about the Jesus out on the wing thing. I feel like it's a wasted position. I don't think that like, I would rather just go get someone. But the only way you can get someone is if you sell them. So I don't know. It's tough. Like, it's tough. Like, I'm not loving what I'm hearing about our window so far, but fair enough. Alicia Thought says, Jess, I think you're wrong about Onana. I've never watched a single game where he played and he was good. Or he was somebody that I looked at and I was like, he's going to take us to another level. Can he play in our team and be an option? Yes, but we're still looking to buy the starting midfielder that's going to complete the trio. So is he that? Like, he's really not. So I don't think I'm missing anything when it comes to Onana. I see exactly what he is. If he was somebody that was coming in to be a part of the team as a backup, he's perfect for that because he can do a job. He can make us more aggressive in some instances. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he probably won't cost that much in terms of wages. Like, he'd be okay for that. But as our marquee midfield signing, it's giving it's giving mid-table. Like, it really is. Like, it's just not. No. And the whole passing thing, I'm seeing, like John Doe saying, he's underrated in his passing. He is not going to pass like he passes for Everton at Arsenal. The gaps are smaller. You have to be more intricate. Think about how we play and the way Everton play. They play deep in their box and on transition. It's much easier to just hit the ball into in the space because there's all that real estate to just kick the ball into. So of course, like even if he's a couple inches off, it's fine. For Arsenal, do you really see him picking passes in between the lines from the base of our midfield with 11 men behind the ball on the other side? No, I know you can't. He can't. He's not. He's not the guy. He's not the guy. Like, I'd rather just have Jorginho. Like, I think Jorginho is better than him. Like, Jorginho can at least pick a fucking pass for a team that's a possession-based side. Like, nah. Samuel says, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, Jess, we should go for Valera from Porto. I don't even remember any of the players off of that team. I'll be so real. Except for the guy with the teeth that missed the penalties. Galeno. Galeno. Yeah. Oh, you guys can see my baby. He's been sleeping the whole time. So yeah, but he I honestly was so blacked out during that time. I wasn't really paying attention to their players, but we haven't even been linked to any of those players. So yeah. Foxy says whoever signs Onana will overpay. He's a decent player that could improve, but more negatives than positives with a deal like that. John Doe says, you're banking on Rice staying fit all season. You want to compete on all fronts, even in the cups. When you decide to rest Rice, who plays? I mean, I'm not banking on anything. Like I'm probably the main person that's been saying midfielder is way more important than the attack because we need the attack. But the midfield has to be the priority because you have to have somebody that can play with or without Rice so that he can be rested from time to time. I don't think that'll happen very often because like he's a starter. So yeah, but I'm not banking on anything. I don't want Onana. I don't want our one midfield signing to be Onana. I just don't. Like I don't, and I never will. So I'm not banking on it. I want us to bring in a midfielder. It's a priority. It's the number one priority in my mind. Making sure that we take care of midfield like we haven't done for like 3 windows now, where we've been asking to either bring in somebody that could take over for Xhaka or replace him at some point. It's never happened. So yeah, like somebody that can play with or without Declan Rice, meaning somebody that can play with Jorginho or with Rice is important. So I'm not banking on nothing. I don't want Onana, period. Like I will never want him as our main midfield signing, you know? So yeah, Samuel says if we don't buy a midfielder, I don't think we can go for the title. Listen, if we can't get any of the players that we've been linked to, mostly João Neves, Bruno Guimaraes, Zubamendi, go for Fofana. Just call it a day. Burmese says, is bringing 3 good players, a center forward, center mid, left back, worse than elite center mid and 2 average good players, center forward and left back? I don't think you have to choose. I feel like you can get an elite center midfielder and then get 2 cheaper options that are young, up and coming stars. You could go get Hato. Like, let's say you go get Hato and you get Sesko. The 2 of them together cost you, like, let's say 80 million. You can still go out and get a top quality midfielder. We don't have to choose. The decisions are being made for us because of the decisions that we made in the past. But this idea that we either get 1 good player and 2 average players, or we get all 3 good players, but nobody's elite, it doesn't account for players that are young that can become world-class players. Like buy elite talent and let them develop. I'd much rather you spend your money that way than buying a cheaper option that's already kind of like developed and kind of shit. Like no, like buy elite talent. And Onana's not that. So like he's not that. Period. He's just not that. So yeah. But yeah, so Samuel says, what about Kimmich? I think it still depends on like where they see him play, but like now that like is company gonna let him go? I don't think so, but I don't know. I would take Kimmich. I would. But yeah. Barani says, I think people are focusing on the wrong problem. We have a selling problem and it's hindering us massively. How is Omari going for 20 plus and Diaz going for 50 plus when we can't get 30 for Nketiah? We kind of talked about that yesterday though. Before we get into the spreadsheet and kind of build the midfield and show how to look next season, let's go through the headlines just one more time. Let me see. Yeah. Chelsea are stepping up talks for Michael Olise and Benjamin Sesko. That's coming from Santi JFM. The FA want to issue a lifetime ban for Lucas Paquetá for betting. Don't bet, kids. It's not worth it. Juventus and Aston Villa are discussing a swap deal between Douglas Luiz and Weston McKennie, which is the weirdest rumor that I've heard today, but it's the transfer window. Anything goes. Newcastle are set to make a formal approach or a formal offer for James Trafford, which would mean that their interest in Ramsdale would no longer be there. Emile Smith-Rowe has been informed that Arsenal would not stand in his way if he wants to go, but they want more than 30 million for him, and there are multiple teams interested, including Brentford, Brighton. I know Fulham was interested, Crystal Palace, and Wolves. So we should be getting a good fee, make a bidding war, get some money for him. Like, time to move him on. Manchester City have launched a formal or unprecedented legal action against the Premier League, which is going to be probably the biggest talk of the next couple of days, because it's coming before their trial for the 115 charges. So they're basically just trying to get away with it. It's so crazy. They're going to make documentaries about this shit at some point. You know that, right? And then so you guys can also sign up for the classic watch along. That's on Thursday at 8 p.m. UK time. The link is pinned. I also put the link in the chat. It's in the description. We're watching the 2013-2014 third round FA Cup game against Tottenham. And so make sure you guys sign up for that. The code is Jessica. So once you put in your email, the code that they'll ask you for is Jessica, Jessica. Make sure you sign up for that. And yeah, let's get into the spreadsheet. Okay. And let me make sure you guys can actually see it. Okay. So we're building the midfield. So we can see what we actually have, what's going on. This is just what I just put up here preemptively. It's just kind of the vibe that we went with at the end of the season. This is who we know that people, I guess, because we have to put in Nweri, we have to figure out, Fabio Vieira and Nweri are going to be here. ESR most likely will not be. So I know as much as people are going to be like, but we have ESR. The most likely outcome for ESR is that he is sold, and it's probably the right thing. So yeah, we can also probably look at Havertz in here as well, and then kind of see where we're at. So then there's 500 of you guys in here. So really get involved in the chat, because otherwise you guys are just gonna listen to me talk. And I want to get your guys' opinions on this too. And make sure you guys are liking and subscribing if you are new. So Rice at left center mid has been what we did this past season at the end, when we got to the point where we're playing Partey and Jorginho. But we also know that he's played 6 for us with Havertz and Odegaard. To me, the best we played was Jorginho, Odegaard, and Rice. Some people will say it's with Partey, but it's the same formula. It's a different number 6, more of a passing number 6, and Rice a little bit further forward. I think we got to this place, here's my personal opinion on Rice at 8. I think he's our best number 8, and that's mostly because we have not bought one. I think we could do very similar things to what we were doing with Partey and Jorginho if we just went out and bought a good midfielder. It's the one position that we seem to have a really difficult time nailing in terms of just buying a number 8 or somebody that is just a CM. Somebody that can do a little bit of the attacking. I think we get too wrapped up in 6/8. Who is that? Just a midfielder. Back in the day, when we used to talk about Vieira and those guys, we would just say midfielder because they could do a little bit of everything. That's the kind of player that you kind of need. Not Vieira, but somebody that can get into the final third, that is good passing, that's a good carrier, that can do a little bit of defending, that can sit on his own in a pivot, that can play with Rice, without Rice, somebody like that. Because we have not addressed it, it's just nagging me so badly. And so this whole Rice as the 8 is to me more of a consequence of not filling that role. And because they know that they made a mistake with Havertz in midfield, they put him there and play Jorginho and Partey as a Band-Aid. But realistically, Arsenal need to figure out the balance, because even with Jorginho and Partey, there was still in some games something missing. And I feel like that's mostly because Rice, he's as good as he is as a player, he's never going to have that finesse that's probably required in certain games. You know, when you just have like a natural midfielder in midfield, they just know how to operate in those small pockets. They have those little tools in their toolbox and how to unpick this lock, how to pass the ball with that type of, speed and whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like, I know I need to hit this with the outside of my foot. I know I need to hit this a little bit to the inside. I know I need to do this. I need to stall on the ball. I can receive it here and then pass it out there. Rice is limited in the number 8. That doesn't mean he doesn't play it well, but he's never going to be an all-weather choice. Now, is the other choice that we want to have instead of Rice, like if we put Rice in the 6, do we want that choice to be Havertz? I don't know if he solves that problem either, because he, similar to Rice, it doesn't have the finesse on the ball to get the ball to our wingers to create. He's more of somebody that's just going to play off the ball. So we're still missing, as bad as it sounds, a more athletic Xhaka, which is all we've been looking for this whole time. And so I don't know if that player exists with what we got. We have Vieira, we have Nweri, who we need to stick in here somewhere. And so we'll start off with them. But just put the names here. Havertz. And so those are the 3 we know are going to be here. ESR is going to be sold, so we don't need to go over that again. For those of you guys who are going to still be screaming it, let it go. All right, so where are we putting Havertz? Are we putting him at left center mid? Are we putting him at left center mid? So Boy says Rice as the starting DM. So we also have to remember that Partey will also probably be sold. Like based on the rumors, it's that he will most likely go. Like Fabrizio Romano said that he'll most likely go. And that just because you want to stay doesn't mean that Arsenal are not going to try to move you on. So yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and take him out, and I'm just going to stick him over here. I'm going to put him in a sell column. Over here with ESR and Partey. So let's say those are the outgoing midfielders. We're not going to put El Neni because he didn't even play the season. Like, we don't even need to really mention it, right? So let's say those 2 are over there and we stick Rice here. So Rice cannot be the starting left center mid and the starting DM. So somebody else has to start here. So let's move Rice down. And let's open up this spot. So this spot needs to be filled. So what are we doing here? What are we doing there? Let's see. Gunnar says we need someone to help Odegaard with creativity. Gunnar says, so glad you pointed this out. We've needed a more creative number 8. Keenan says FDJ is the only midfielder that can potentially reach the heights of Modric, Cruz, Silva, and KDB. We should be going all out for him. I think FDJ, he already was in James's article written off as an option that we're not going to get. So Bruno Guimaraes, Zubimendi, FGJ, and João Neves, none of them, there's 4 big options out of the window just like that. So I think we can, like, with Hansi Flick is not going to, like, that's the thing about the managerial merry-go-round that's happened at Bayern and Barcelona in particular, is that options that we were looking at those clubs that we could potentially like pick off, like one of these like top quality options, just disappear just like that, because those managers are not going to let those people go, right? So this has got to be filled. Like, this position is so important. Putting Havertz there, we've already seen it. It's suboptimal. It's an option. It's something that you can do, but it's not something that really like fills the need, like in terms of creativity or whatever, but we know he can be put there. So let's put him in that position as an option, but I'm still not feeling it. Honestly, I'm still not feeling it. It cannot be this. Oh, it didn't need to be highlighted. So what do we think about Fabio Vieira? Are we going to put him on the Odegaard side? What do you guys think? Um, Idealistically, you'd probably want at least two options for both sides. Um, and for people that are like, we're going to sell Fabio Vieira. No, we're not. He's not going anywhere. So maybe this is his little breakout season, but I would imagine that this is where he'll be. Um, I feel like they just need to figure out a way to get him going. Like he costs way too much. Again, we had opportunities even that summer to bring in a left center mid, and we chose to bring in Fabio Vieira. In the summer that we brought in Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko, we brought in Fabio Vieira. Then the next window, we brought in Rice and Havertz. Neither one of them are the perfect fit for that left center mid. They both are better in other positions. Have, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, okay, like when are we going to get it done? So this is our right center mid, and then Nweri has to go somewhere. So for those of you guys who know a lot about Nweri, is he going to be? Do you guys think he'll play more on the right or on the left? Kind of both. I think he could probably plop into any one of these positions. Like he can kind of be um, here and here, and I also think he can play out wide. So, and I think this is a good thing too because it would make it so that we didn't have to see Trossard play there. Because as much as you guys know, I love Trossi. Okay, nobody tell me nothing about Trossi, but he is not the best at left center mid either. So this is kind of what we have. So again, Rice cannot be the number one at left center mid and DM. Somebody has to go there. Keenan says right side for Nweri. He should be coming in for Odegaard. Chris Fraser said he'll play right center mid or right wing mostly. So I'll take him off of this one. So this is kind of what we have. Okay. So I mean, they got to figure out something to do with Fabio Vieira. Either you're gonna prioritize him or not. Like, I'm still just feeling like Havertz should be like not an option for this position at all. So yeah, Keenan says make Fabio third choice. That's not gonna happen. Boy says Nweri could even rotate with Saka. Otani says should CM recruit be built? Wait, should CM recruit be build up focal point to get the best out of Rice and Odegaard? To me, honestly, like I think that the most important thing is to figure out who's going to be able to highlight Rice's and Odegaard's best qualities. Like they're the most important. Like they are key players, our star players in midfield. We have them in their prime. We have got to get somebody in there that can play with them 90% of the time, so that they can build some sort of balance, build some sort of relationship, and we can just move on from the merry-go-round of trying to make somebody work or make somebody do a job. So the player I'm always looking for is somebody that can help Odegaard with creativity, but also allow him a little bit of freedom and allow Declan Rice a little bit of freedom. An all-around midfielder is what we kind of need in that position. And none of these guys really fit that role. Like Havertz doesn't really fill that role. Fabio Vieira is kind of like a sometimey, like, in some circumstances, but maybe not in every single circumstance. So this player has to be recruited. So the only other option you have is to move Rice fully into left center mid, which again, in certain circumstances, like that's just not going to work. We're going to need something a little bit different. It just feels like you just need to buy that player. It's crazy. Joseph says, I've changed my mind. Just bring in Onana as the number 6, Steele in the midfield, leave Rice as left center mid. Oh my God. The death of me. Like literally. So this is like this midfield would like, it just could not. This is what y'all want? Y'all gonna try to beat City with this? Y'all gonna be trying to beat City with this? I will not be there. I will not be there. This whole we're gonna run up to whatever and just be stronger than everybody. We still need to be able to pick a fucking pass. Like this is outrageous. Like this would devastate me if this is what we went into next season with. I would be only really excited to see Nowhere, to be honest. Hi. You okay? He is so funny. Um, so this is what y'all want. This is it. Gutter says Onana and Rice pivot. The Marani says Onana is not a 6. No way he can be an 8 as a space eater at best. And that's the thing. It's like he's not going to solve the 6 problem. Like Onana, you're just putting him there because because he's the most physical and he's tall. It's not because he's actually like he's a weird player where he because we already have Rice, he's just not a player that we would need. I just feel like he's like a cheaper Rice option. He's not somebody that can play 6 and 8 but has that destroyer factor to them. Uh Probably not the most like finesse on the pass and stuff like that. Rice is definitely a better passer than him, but yeah, we've already spent 100 million on Rice. We really don't need Onana. Like we need something at the base of that midfield, or just buy a left center mid. Um, it's really giving another season of disappointment. Yo says only option I can think of is Fofana, cheap plus technically and physically gifted with 1 year left on his contract. I mean, he's the obvious answer that I would go with. I would, and again, like for people that are like, I don't like Rice at DM, he just can't do it for me. Fofana can switch positions. Like you could do a little bit of like what we've been doing. It's still giving we fucked up somewhere, but it's better than Onana in my opinion. At least you have like somebody that's like a capable midfielder in there. Jordan says, bruh, Onana is cover for Rice. We need a starter. Exactly. He's just not starting level for us. Like at all. Otani says, my 2 cents on the current qualities. Rice, box to box destroyer, ball carrier, long range passing, match winning goals and assists. I'm waiting for the second one. Boy says if we get Seiwald, he can play DM and left center mid, gives us a lot of rotation options. Who is Seiwald? Otani, this is the second part of your comment saying Odegaard leads the press, runs the final third tempo, creative focal point, ball retention, regista and disguise, creates from the middle of the third pitch. I like that, and that's fine. I just listen. This is what Arsenal want to go with next season. And just leave this blank, then they'll just keep Partey, and we'll be basically we'll be at the mercy of his biscuit legs. Like it cannot be this. They need to buy a midfielder. I'm tired of waiting. Genuine. What's wrong with you? I'm tired of waiting, but like, yeah, it's just not good enough. Keenan says Jamal Musiala give Bayern the bag. Burmy says you're depressing me on the transfer window is not even open yet, hoping for the major Arteta surprises. I would love to have like some sort of surprise or excitement or something. What I read did not lead me to believe that we are prepared to really go out there and they've been slowly prepping us for younger players, not really gonna go big on any position, just kind of backfilling the team. And that makes me feel like they like how this season went and they're just going to continue with it and just bring in a couple of players. But also, they know we need Stardust. They know we need Stardust, but it doesn't seem like they're going to get it. It's just, I don't know what we're doing. But we still have a couple more weeks for the window to actually open. But this is basically what we had this season. And if we don't actually go out and get anything, this is probably what we'll go with. To me, this is not winning the league. Look at you making noise. So yeah. Any other options, guys? You guys have any other options? That's the thing. It's like once you take out those 4 major options of Zubamendi, João Neves, and once you take those options out, there's very little out there to really get excited about. You're going into your Onanas and your Fofanas. So I could see Arsenal just kind of doing like, well, what we had this past season was fine. Let's not rush it. Let's be patient. And it's just like, all right. whatever. But hopefully at least we get the attackers, because I would imagine if you don't get a midfielder, then you would be forced to get two attackers. So I don't know. Chris says, I'm worried about the summer's window, not gonna lie. Come on. So yeah. Gunner says, Wirtz maybe. Yo-Yo says, now what you doing? Where are you going? Yo-Yo says skill set matters more than brand names. Joseph says, I'm confident in Edu and Arteta in the market. Haven't let me down as of yet. So yeah, this is kind of what we're working with. This is probably what it will look like, unless there's like some major surprise. If they go with Rice as the left center mid, do you want to get down? Then we'll probably just keep Partey, because they're not going to be able to get like Zubamendi or any of the others. So what's wrong? Want to get down? We'll let you out. Don't get into trouble. Don't get into trouble. He's about to get into trouble. I can already feel it. Blank Face Killer says, you pick him and they just try to jump down anyway. I mean, he's just so like, I'm still trying to figure him out. So just a sidebar for those of you guys who are like, who is that? That is Beckham. Beckham is a new dog, like my new dog. He's 5 months old. I got him from a shelter. He is super cute. I think he's like a Chihuahua Corgi mix. I think that's kind of what we came to the agreement on. And he's done really well so far. He's almost like pretty much trained. It's just strange. He was returned by a family that bought two dogs at once and decided that they couldn't deal with both. So they took him back and sent him back. And so I ended up getting him, and he knows how to sit. He knows where to pee. He knows where to pee. He's really good. So yeah. Let's see. Yo-Yo says, and we shouldn't take media reports as gospel. Bruno G won't stay at Newcastle, and Edu knows he effed up passing on his signature. I don't know. They keep prepping us with this whole like Arsenal are not prepared to go big. They're not gonna buy big. They're not gonna get this player. They're not gonna get that player. And I feel like they are briefing the media to kind of like temper expectations. They want to backfill, so it's crazy. Boy says should have banned Bergkamp. The reason why I named him Beckham is because I've had the name picked out for a long time. And Bergkamp doesn't sound as good as Beckham does, and so his nickname is Bex. And I love Beckham, so you guys can never make me hate him. So yeah, and isn't he just the cutest? Isn't he just the cutest? Isn't he just the cutest? He is. Yeah. So yeah. Laundry Basket says Jess would put Beckham in the 8 before Onana. I absolutely will. I have faith in my boy. I bought him a little soccer ball too. Like, he's into it. He's into it. I don't know what he's doing right now. He's being so dramatic. Yo-Yo says, I told you Georgie's renewal wasn't to be celebrated as he's on a decline and was left out of the team come the end. Arteta Edu news to stop playing with their food and sort out the midfield. So yeah. That's kind of where we're at with things. It's still pretty like just not a lot of news. Like there's not really a lot to talk about. Obviously, like the window is not that open. But when people like James come out with information like this, he's probably been briefed. And so I do kind of like look at it and try to pick through it. Some of it was opinion. Other parts of it was like more like, okay, we're not getting this player. We're not getting that player. That makes sense. I'm just concerned about midfield. And I will maintain my concern over midfield until it's solved. I just don't understand how Edu and Arteta can be midfielders and never seem to figure out how to bring in like top quality midfield talent like we have with Odegaard and Rice, but there's a specific like type of player that they avoid, and that's the number 8. And they want to play number 10s in the 8. They want to play like forwards in the 8. They want to play DMs in the 8. How about just buy a number 8? Like, why is it so hard? People are starting to put out clips of Havertz in the tip of the diamond. I'm telling you, it's coming. Like, we're gonna be playing the fucking diamond. Like, Arteta's not gonna let go of this idea, and somebody's gonna be inverting, and I don't know who it's gonna be, but Godspeed to whoever's gonna be inverting, because it was not good for Partey. Trust. Trust. Now, where are you going? What's wrong? This is all day, by the way. It's just trying to figure out where he wants to sit. Do you want to sit on my lap? Do you want to sit on the bed? Where do you want to go? He probably like just wants a treat, honestly. Bronny says, I think they're still haunted by the OR. So Steve Walder says, where can I find that James McNicholas article? Is it paywalled? I think it is paywalled, but here, let me see if I can find the link. But there's tons of like little clips of it here. It's called the Arsenal deal sheet. Let me see. I'm clicking on it now. Yeah, it's paywalled. But I'll put the link in there anyway, just in case you want to sign up and then delete your account. Why are you acting up in front of company? There's the link. Foxy says the worst part of the summer is all the in the knows that pop up out of nowhere with nonsense rumors. I've always said that I was gonna make like a weird account, like a fake account, like during the transfer window. I haven't done it, and I'm telling you guys now, so I can't do it now. But some anonymous account, and just start tweeting nonsense and see how popular I could get in a couple of months. I would like honestly, like I would do that and just see how popular I got, and then just like use it as like a case study, because I genuinely feel like I could write it in a way where people would start to believe it. Otani says Timber will probably have the most demanding role next season. Boy says he wants to go for a walk. He's not going on a walk until 4-5 o'clock, so he's still got some time. He's still got some time before he takes that walk. Yo-Yo says smoke and mirrors until the window shuts. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm, just yeah. I am the only thing that I really liked about this little bit of the article is the part about Nweri. I think it's so important to integrate him in. I think, he could play some significant minutes. He would be like a signing, to be honest. So I could totally see the scenario where they just keep everybody and just add Nweri and sell ESR and just move on. But it would be kind of, it would be nice to see somebody come through the academy. That's actually really good. Barani says, Jess, you didn't answer my previous question. Do small dogs tend to bite more than big dogs? I mean, all dogs have, I think it depends on their temperament. My best friend has 2 pitties, and they don't bite. They don't they're the sweetest. Like they don't bite at all. So I think it depends on what kind of dog you have and how you train them. And if they're sweet and nice and cuddly, this guy doesn't bite at all, except for the pillow that I told you to stop biting. See how he's trying me right now? So yeah, it just depends on how the dog was trained and if they're sweet and cuddly and nice. Karthik says, Nweri deserves more game time. Keenan says Partey and Jorginho are 1 year older. If we don't at least get Fofana, it'll be a step backwards. I feel the exact same way. I just know how Arsenal operate. If they don't see something that they want in the window and they can't get their number one choice, they can't get Zubamendi, who they've wanted this whole time, who decided he doesn't want to come to England, then they just won't address it, and they'll just keep what they got, So, and it's just the easiest way to bring in a striker and appease that person, but also be able to have Havertz in the lineup, So yeah, I think that's kind of what's gonna happen. Troy says Chelsea chasing our targets again. Heard they want Sesko even though they have Jackson. I don't honestly, if nobody wanted Cisco, they wouldn't want Cisco. I said it earlier on in the show. There's 550 of you guys in here, by the way. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you're new. And if you're watching on Twitter, hello. But honestly, I think that if nobody wanted Cisco, they wouldn't go for him. But it's like the formula is lurk in the shadows, wait for somebody to get almost done, offer the club and the player a lot more money, hijack, leak all the information to the press, make sure Fabrizio Romano is saying it over and over and over again so that they can be the main focus of every transfer window. It's how they do stuff. Karthik says Partey has to be sold. It's about time. If we go into next season with those two being our like main options of starting at the 6th position because Rice has to play the 8, we're fucked. We're not gonna. We're this. It's not an improvement at all. Like, where are we gonna actually improve the squad? Like, or improve the starting 11? Like, midfield is the biggest opportunity to improve the 11. And if they go in with the same people and just backfill with Nweri, then I don't know what's tell you. Yo-Yo says City didn't get Rice and still won the title. It's a wrap if they get Bruno G. Keenan says we need to get better buying the 20 million Fofanas, or if Douglas Luiz was cheaper at 35, we need to move our Deadwood on and sprinkle in some boring solid depth sometimes. You know what? Like, I don't even disagree. Like I said, I would be okay with Hato coming in as the defensive option because I know that he's like world-class talent, young talent that, could, and he probably wouldn't cost more than like 30 million, maybe 40, if they're feeling spicy. So that's fine. Like sprinkling in a Bakayoko for 30 million, sprinkling in a Fofana for 20 million is perfect. But when you still have holes in your 11, that's where it becomes more difficult. And the longer you kick it down the line, buying these players that are supposedly versatile, but you always have to figure out how to maneuver around them when they inevitably don't work out, and you still have them hanging around the squad, or you keep buying these types of players, it keeps you kicking down the can down the line for the players that you should have already gotten. We just needed a striker and a left center mid, and we've made it so much more complicated than it needs to be. And so we probably should be addressing those as starters, but we also need those backup players. So we have a lot to do, and they're not seeing the players that they want. And so they're like, okay, so what do we do? And it's just like, just fix something. Just focus on one thing. Focus on it. It's okay to have a couple of specialists in the team. I also think this like obsession with versatility has almost gone too far. Not every single player needs to play every single position. Like it's okay for like one of your midfielders to just be a left center mid, for one of your players to just be a striker. It's okay. I think the striker and one of our midfielders has got to just be what they are, be specialists at what they do. Everybody else can be a little bit versatile. It's cute, but hey. Chris says, is Beckham trying to eat that pillow? Yeah. You're wrong. Anything I give him, he won't he doesn't really want to bite, but like things that he knows I want, like that pillow or a basket or whatever, he's biting on. Like he's just a typical puppy. He's just a typical puppy. Joseph says, sprinkle in Onana as a replacement for Elneny. Everton needs to sell. Boy says, although Jack Russells are hyper dominant, so they'll break big dogs somehow. Think they throw subliminals. They were saying something about Beckham that another reason why the family that brought him back was because the other dog that they had was a bigger dog, but he was like all in their face and was like trying to be dominant towards him and stuff like that. That's why, like, when they were saying that he's a Chihuahua mix, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was mixed with Corgi and like Jack Russell, because he does have like a big dog personality, even though he's really small. So yeah, Yo-Yo says people often say Dean was Wenger's conscience. What does that make Ed do to Arteta? I don't know, child. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. I genuinely don't know, but there's no real way to get this window wrong. We've been saying this, but it still feels like there's a little wiggle room for them not to do what they need to do. Chris says versatility is the death of dedicated excellence. And I get that we like the versatility because like Pep likes versatility and like they come from that same ethos, but there's some players that just can only do one thing, and that's fine. And getting a dedicated midfielder that just midfields the fuck out of the game and a striker that just likes to score goals would be very useful for a team that like everybody kind of has that aspect of versatility where and we have a couple of players that are like good at certain things but leave big gaps in the they have big gaps in their game where like they're not good for almost every single game, but we kind of need them a little bit more than we should. Those players are stressful as well. Like Tomiyasu is somebody that I would look at as he's versatile, but he has big gaps in his game, but we need him so often. So the gaps are just like there. And it's like, okay, well, how do we get somebody that can kind of just do everything? I feel like some players just have to be able to, how do I explain that? I think some players just have to be like really good at what they do and other players can be versatile. Tommy to me is too versatile. Not he's too versatile with too many gaps in his game. So it's kind of like it's a weird one. Okay, you're distracting me now. You're distracting me. I think he wants attention, so we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. There's 550 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Simon, last comment says, Jess, you might cry if we lack someone as skilled as Partey to help us win games next season. We really need someone of his caliber, even better. I want Partey gone. And so as much as I kind of get what people are saying, like they always want a reason to like give Partey props for something that he didn't do. He's a really good player. Don't get me wrong, but like there's nothing in my mind that would make me think that we need to keep him. We need a player that can just be a good midfielder, a player that's even 10% less talented than him, but is available 90% of the time is an upgrade on him. So I won't cry if we don't have Thomas Partey. I'll cry if we don't address midfield. So yeah, but guys, we're going to go ahead and go because he needs something. Are you okay? But like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way out. Make sure you guys also sign up for the classic Watchalong. I'm actually going to check now and see how many people have signed up. You okay? So it looks like since the stream has started, only one of you guys has. So we have like 200 members, but it's only went up by like 2. So make sure you guys are clicking on that link and joining us because we'll still do a show about transfers, but sometimes you just want to sit and chill and just be on Nostalgia FC, So and we'll be rewatching a game and yeah, so make sure you guys click on that link. It's pinned in the chat. It's also in the description box. Like and subscribe on your way out. And hopefully we get a good link to a midfielder sooner rather than later. Everyone say, bye, Beckham. And we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.